Hi, and welcome back to the BeStrong Show. I am your host, Michelle Shirley, CEO and Chief Heart Officer for BeStrong International. I don't know if you've heard or seen all of the buzz on social media, but we had a great time at our Hearts in Rhythm charity event. I hope you were there. If you were not, it is still not too late to give to our organization. Remember that we're all about healthy relationship skills. We teach heart skills to individuals, families, married couples, and we do a lot of community work. And so we just want to make sure that you stay in touch with us and you stay involved in all the things that BeStrong is doing. Looking forward to seeing you join our page, our social media pages. So, with that said, without further ado, I want to introduce to you an amazing guest that I have today. Her name is Heidi Alzate Kaufman. She is the EVP of Strategy and Development at Chapman Partnership. Welcome, Heidi, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, so super excited to be here.
Yes, I know it's been a long time. We've gone through some schedule changes. You are very busy.
Yes, we are. But, I did, this morning getting ready, I feel like this has been like a blind date setup of like mutual friends that have just been
Yes.
trying to get us together.
Yeah, so good. And I wore red for you. And then I realized that you didn't wear red.
I
And
did
I'm like,
it, and
oh,
I wore pink for you. And I
I
was
love
like,
it.
yeah. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm just going to wear like a real nice girly pink, So, but
It's all
thank
love.
you. It
It's
looks
all
awesome
love.
on you.
It's
I love
all
it.
love. It's all love. So I'm glad you're here. I want to start off by sharing a really wow factor number that I thought blew my mind when I first really encountered Chapman Partnership. And it was the fact that I heard that you all spend at least $100,000 on meals.
That's right.
Every month.
That's right.
For your two sites, because you are serving these families and making sure that they're eating well. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you think of your grocery bill at home, right, and what that looks like compared to what we're spending in food, it's definitely quite a commitment to serving our residents.
Yeah. And so your donor support, the things that you need from the community to support this work is so incredible. I mean, tell me a little bit more about how you're getting out there and letting the world know, Miami know about what's going on with homeless families.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, we are an organization that's been around for 30 years. We're actually celebrating our 30-year anniversary. We've been very blessed and fortunate throughout, the last 3 decades. Number one, when you look at our funding, 60% does come from the food and beverage tax through our primary partner, the Homeless Trust. And then the other 40% we do fundraise for, right? And that's about anywhere between 7 to 10 million a year. So we do heavily lean on support from donors, grants, foundations. But one of the things that I personally love about Chapman is the love of legacy. So we've been getting love throughout these last 30 years from some very committed, longstanding donors, and that really does make a difference. Because without having the sustainability or the access to, that impact or those dollars, we probably wouldn't be able to do this for this long, right? And so we are definitely, working our way into doing it for the next 30 years and what that looks like.
Absolutely.
Right. I think when I say love of legacy, right, I'm talking about a traditional donor that's been committed to your organization, but there's definitely a new wave of philanthropy, right? There's a new donor. I think the last article that came out through Chronicles of Philanthropy stated that the average major gift or principal donor is actually in their 30s, right?
Wow.
Where it was in their 50s before. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity, but every day is something different, and we have an amazing team that gets out there.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
I see them everywhere.
Good.
They're amazing.
I'm happy to hear
That's the
that.
intent, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because that's what is supposed to be happening. But no, they're amazing, and I think that the work of homelessness is not for everyone. The mission of homelessness is not for everyone. So for those of us that wake up and get to do it every day, it's because this is our why. This is where we belong, and it makes it easier, right? But yeah, it definitely would not be possible if it weren't for the amazing team.
Yeah. You said something interesting just now. You said that it's not for everyone. And yet, when I think about what the work that we do and just things that are happening right now
Mhm.
across our nation, the loss of jobs,
Mhm.
instability of where people are trying to find work and just living somewhere that they can afford. Many of us, I mean, people are one check away
Mhm.
from homelessness, one trauma or disaster
Or a
away
flat
from
tire.
homelessness.
Mhm.
I want you to talk about the other wow factor that you were sharing earlier about 60%
Yeah.
of the families that you're serving that are in your population are.
Yeah, so 60% of the residents that we serve right now are families. One of the things that sets Chapman apart is that we do have family dormitories, so we don't split our families up.
Mm,
And so we've seen an increase in families, but what we've also seen is that the majority of those families are actually employed.
wow.
So it's anything between a flat tire, or it used to be a two-house income and then it went down to one, and so they could no longer afford their housing, or it could be that they'd been with their landlord for about a decade and then they got an offer for 3 times the amount of rent, and so they lost
Everything.
everything.
But talk about the flat tire because I want people to really recognize what you're saying. I want you to dig into that a little bit.
Yep, yep. So it's a livable wage, right? Slash access to affordable housing, right? So I always say you cannot solve homelessness unless you have a plan for affordable housing. And the scarcity that we're having with affordable housing and the lack of access to is what's creating this very minute gap in someone literally not having the extra 3 or 400 to make their rent, because the rent is taking up almost 80% of their paycheck,
Mm,
right? So when you think about that, almost 80% of our community lives that way, right?
right.
That's a
Yeah.
huge number.
Right.
So it's really about aligning those, informing the community, um, and then really focusing on, it's a three-prong approach, right? It's a livable wage, and it's access to um, sustainable and affordable housing. But then the third is that financial planning piece, right?
It's
The
huge.
Yes, yes, the being able to know, how much you need to save based on how much you make, right? Like how much should be in reserves. But when you're just living paycheck to paycheck,
There's no thoughts of
there's
reserves.
no exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
You can't.
No, no.
Mm, wow. So tell me about what families experience when they walk through there for the first time. What is that like? What is it that they're getting? Because I know you've mentioned that you don't split them up, which is amazing because I know some other centers do, unfortunately, because of the way in which they've been set up. So talk to our audience
Yeah.
about that.
So we really I always say we really are a mushy crowd. So when you come into Chapman, we really wrap our entire arms around every family that comes in.
Mm,
So anywhere from, we have case management on site, we have a robust relationship with Jackson Health, we have a clinic on site, we have a robust family resource program that offers the aftercare programming on site. So if you're living with us and you just kind of are coming back from work and you need that break to kind of like gather yourself, right? We offer that right on site. We also have a relationship with the Miami-Dade School Board, and we have a Head Start program, right? So
wow.
talk about walking a few doors down and being able to drop off your little one, and coming back and having it. So what we try to do is we really try to ease, right, the journey of homelessness,
Mm,
and keeping it as normalcy as possible, right, within something that's not normal, right? So we also, our staff is trauma informed. So making sure that every conversation is a conversation that's from an empathetic standpoint, a place of vulnerability,
Absolutely.
love. So that's really Chapman. Like we really wrap our arms around the whole family and, getting them to their next phase, whether it's transitional housing, whether it's permanent housing. And even then, we still have an extension of our programming that will stay with that family until they don't answer the door anymore. Is
Right.
basically what I say,
Right.
right?
Right.
So we have case managers that will stay with the family for as long as time just to make sure if things do happen down the road that we're there to safety net or whatever the case may be.
Wow. Now, with this current, we're still in this affordable housing crisis, right?
Mhm.
What are you seeing now that you haven't seen probably before in the last 5 or 6 years?
A lot of collaboration, a lot
Mm.
of partnership, and a lot of awareness, right? So I think you had um, the same group of people talking about the same thing, right? And I think you know
Yeah,
who I'm talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
because we were one of them,
Yeah,
right? We're
right.
sitting on all these task force and we're on all
Right.
these committees
Right.
and we're about to bring down the hammer on
Right,
affordable
right, right.
housing. And then and we're like thinking we're the pioneers of this conversation. And in 18 months, it's the only thing being talked about across the country. So while it's a what I call the next pandemic, right after COVID, was the affordable housing
Right.
crisis. Um, that in itself helped inform the community of where we are.
Mm.
Right. And then when I say partnership, it's working with corporations to say, hey, like it is in your best interest to care about this topic because you know that 30% of your workforce falls under, losing housing, which then
Right.
until increases your employee turnover. Right.
Right.
So a lot of partnership and even within the sector. Right. So you see organizations like the Udanis Haslam Foundation, right, who just did a partnership with Miami-Dade County on some of their units. But, I talked to their ED in passing and, it's just not enough, right? Like as soon
I
as that
know.
came online, they were all gone, right? Like the need is
I
so
know. And
huge.
so it makes me think, what is enough? Like I'm thinking now and I'm listening to you and I'm like, you have 2 sites. Do you need 4 sites? Like what would it take for it to sort of subside this crisis? And I know it's interlocked with so many other
The
things, like you said.
it's such a large housing is such a large ecosystem
Yeah.
that as long as supply keeps coming online in abundance and the supply keeps getting consumed,
Mm.
we're going to find ourselves in this trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Because as long as there's a consumer that can actually afford what is being charged, then there's no need to
Right.
subside pricing.
Right.
Pricing. There's no need to bring down rent or cost of homes. Now, I think what could be a strategy would be a larger civic and maybe private conversation around, what if we do tailor some of housing to, yes, market rate, but then how do we take a percentage of each development project maybe that comes up in the
Mm.
next decade
Right.
that is not necessarily completely subsidized, but
Right.
at least at a
Helps to
sliding
stabilize.
scale.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. That's great. Now, have you pitched that? It's a different story.
I think
Right?
that's a different segment, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something I mention from time to time to
Yeah.
people who need to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's incredible. So then how long are families there typically? Right?
Right.
And then when they transition out, do you see families constantly having to come back? I'm curious to know too.
So with the families, as long as there's stable employment in the home, we see a much lower rate in recidivism.
Okay.
So they've been a part of our continuum and then they came back.
Okay.
So the average stay is, typically around historically was kind of like that 90 to 120
Hmm.
because of the lack of housing supply from a
Right.
transitional standpoint.
Right.
We've seen that go into like 6 to 9 months.
Wow. And I'm seeing buildings
I
everywhere.
know. And
I'm seeing them pop up
I know.
everywhere.
I'm like, how did they fit that thing up there?
Right.
Like I'm coming, I commute into Miami a couple of days a week, and I'm getting on the 326, or whatever that deadly highway is, and I'm thinking to myself, how did they fit that there?
But even in Palmetto Bay, like there's so
Mm-hmm.
much happening like right around us where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so they still cannot afford
Mm-hmm.
to live there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
So we're hoping that as a part of our next 30 years, right, that we do have some kind of footing in housing, right? So right now, our organization is the sole housing, as of recently, with a grant that we received in partnership with the Homeless Trust, the housing navigators for the whole continuum.
Mm,
So not only are we facilitating, rehabilitating our families into housing, but other families from other homelessness providers.
wow.
So being able to make moves like that allows us to really, get what they call a lay of the
Oh
land,
yeah, the whole
the
landscape.
landscape. And I always say it's the power of relationships, right?
Always.
And so making sure, and I think you shared a really cool story coming in here this morning, but being able to build those relationships with the landlords and with homeowners, and even developers, to say, listen, we're here for the long run. You know what I mean? We're going to do good by you, and you're going to do good by our families.
Yeah.
Right. But it's having those conversations. So we do see something in the housing space. We're not, completely, we're
Mm,
still in that kind of exploratory phase,
yeah.
but we do know that a part of our evolution is to have a bigger footing in that space.
Yeah. That sounds so good too. And it's something that I know my team does when there are folks that come in that need
Mhm.
support for housing. Of course, we don't house them, but we will support them financially to help them get that next level up as far as just, okay, if they're on their
Right.
eviction notice and they need a little bit of help, to make sure we speak to the landlords. And we found that that's been a great avenue of just
Yes. Of trust.
reassuring them, yes, building trust, strengthening that relationship.
Right.
Hey, can you just work with this person for a little bit? They're in a program
Mhm.
now. And a lot of times, seeing the kindness from some
Yeah.
of these landlords is really refreshing,
Correct.
right? I mean, apart from the fact that they want their money, right? We get
Right.
that,
But that's what I
but the
always
human side
say
of
when
it.
we're meeting as a team. It's like, they're humans and have lives like the rest of us. And
Right.
all they want is to be able to pay their bills on
Right.
time, and for somebody to take care of their
Property,
property.
correct.
Right. So if we can reassure them on both those things,
Yes.
then it's a no brainer, because, yeah, they may be getting a little bit more from the person standing next to the people that we're supporting and helping, but they're taking a big risk, right? Because you just
Awesome.
don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
But in order to have that, it's really about building that relationship.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So we jumped right into it, and I didn't even get to ask you, like, how did you land at Chapman, right?
Oh my gosh. So I'm actually a boomerang. So I have had a 20 plus career in nonprofit fundraising, started in operations, um, was with a great organization in Broward called Jack and Jill Center. And then went off to higher ed and worked for some great leaders at Broward College Foundation, Nova Southeastern, and then with the big focus on healthcare. Um, and I just, happened to get a call, and I'll be honest, I ignored it, that they needed someone with some robust fundraising experience. And then they called again.
And then you said
And then
hello.
I said hello. And, you know, it, fundraising is interesting, and it does. And I love it because it's peopling, right? I,
It's relationships.
yeah, people's like, how do you ask people for money? I'm like, honestly, I don't ever remember asking people, because by the time you're done building that relationship,
Yeah.
they ask me, well,
How
what do
can I
you
help
help
you?
you?
Yeah.
Right. So, long story short, I was there, and worked with the team from about 2019 to 2021, and got actually started in February, and COVID hit 30 days later. So we were tasked with still needing to raise 5 million, and usually 80% of that 5 million came through our one gala that wasn't happening. So, but with an amazing team. We leaned into best practices, and we got creative because in fundraising you're creative,
you have
right?
to. If you don't have that arm,
Exactly. And we exceeded our goal and got
so beautiful.
yeah.
Wow.
So, and then I went off for a little bit, launched my own consulting firm, which it was a huge risk, but kind of needed to get, after COVID and going through all that, and had a great experience. But in that time, I did a lot of work around housing, right? Because that's just when a lot of the housing boom was happening. And Chapman went through another transition with their CEO, and I came back to consult, and then again one thing led to another,
and here you are.
And here I am,
fitting in my show.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
So
wonderful.
it's stage of life. It's
Yeah.
But I love the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that earlier this morning. It's like you kind of don't feel, and that could be an evil sometimes.
Right.
But I do. I love the work. I love the team, and
yeah. And the mission itself is just beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's a basic need of life.
Yeah.
People need to have somewhere where they can feel safe and put their head down at night and know that they're safe.
Yeah, and that
security of it.
and they're accepted.
Yeah.
And there's no judgment.
Right.
And there's many things I love about Chapman. But one of them is we're just not a place of second chances. We're just a place of chances, right? So you didn't get it the first time, you didn't get the second, but you got it the third, and there's something to be said about that.
Right.
I always say that we all have support systems. We all have a board of directors with our family, our friends, whatever that looks like. And that's what we are for some of these individuals, because for whatever reason, a lot of those relationships were severed along the way. Right.
Yeah.
So if we can be that, I mean,
that's beautiful in itself. You're building community.
That's right.
With them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow, that's incredible. I think there's so much more to share about Chapman. I know I went to one of your events. Absolutely tearjerker. I was just like,
which one?
Get my money. It was last year. It might have been last year or the year before. But there was a woman that spoke about her story. And you had honored a few women there too.
That's it's our signature women's luncheon, our take a walk in her shoes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. But the woman that was there shared her story about being homeless, experiencing that. Her trauma, even from childhood, was just a true tearjerker. And then she stood there saying that she was now
she's one of our next gen council members.
My goodness.
Yeah.
She have her degree in social work. She's working. And then I knew her boss. To me, the whole full story was like,
you were meant to be in that room. You were meant to be.
I was like, I'm right. I'm giving my money. I just can't do this anymore. It was so great. And those stories I think are incredible. And that's what people need to hear. So you all do a great job of showcasing what's happening there. Talk a little bit about your event that's coming up now.
Yeah. So we have two signature events. We have our luncheon and our gala. This one's selfishly one of my favorites, obviously, because it brings together some of the most influential and impactful women in our community. Our honorary chairs are Trish and Dan Bell, who are just beloved Miami philanthropists, and they're one of our love legacies at Chapman. But one of the things that we really wanted to hone in, and I think last year, is making sure that in every event that we do, we incorporate some sense of like the people understand the mission. Absolutely. Right? So we're there to have a good time. We're there to glam. But let's have a little bit of girl talk. Let's dig deep a little bit. Like, why do the 6 honorees that we're honoring, like, why do they volunteer at Chapman? And then the story that we shared with Tiffany. Because when we're able to have those number one moments of vulnerability and alignment, it really does. I mean, mission videos are awesome, storytelling's awesome, but being able to really share it authentically, to me, I think is critical. So that's what the event does, with a spin of creativity. it's just a fun time. It's kind of as women, as moms, as leaders, as bosses, as wives, it's really nice to kind of take that like middle of the day, middle of the week break,
And get to dress up. I like dressing up.
Yeah,
So it was fun for me.
exactly.
I just cried at the end. I was like, I
Right.
just can't stop. Yeah,
Right,
but it was so
exactly.
good.
And we try not to keep you there to the end of time, and we
Right.
don't keep a long program.
Yeah.
I like to keep a tight schedule because we all need to get back to our lives and our
Right.
offices. But it really does lend itself for that. To me, take a walk in her shoes is more about being able to really align what we're doing in the mission to almost every single person sitting in that ballroom.
And it's just what it says it is. I had to sit there and take a walk in her shoes. I had to put myself in her position and say, would I have been as strong as her? Like, my goodness, her resilience, the joy she had through all of it.
Right.
The way she saw her future and what she shared about what she wanted to continue to do. It was just, it was phenomenal.
Thank
so
you.
kudos to you and your team for
Thank
putting
you.
on an excellent
Again,
event.
I'm just as good as the team around me.
Yeah. We all say that. That's what we have to do to stay alive.
Yeah, that's right.
We have to have a good team members.
They're in charge.
So we didn't get to play social yaks. I want to maybe have you pick one or two cards just to share a little bit about you so that our audience can know more about you. So our social yaks game, as you know, we came to your firm and played a game with your
our
team.
staff. Yep.
And it's all about connection. But just wanted to see if the audience in a few minutes got to know you a little bit better. Who's Heidi?
How much time do we have?
We have a few minutes. Go,
Okay.
go.
So who do you admire most in the world and why? So I'm probably my mom, most definitely. She's an immigrant. She came here with my older brother who was under 5 at the time and built herself up with, little to nothing, maybe no different than some of the individuals that we serve at Chapman, and raised 3 very capable and able humans now. So she's definitely someone that I admire the most.
And I'm sure she's told you that she's super proud.
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to go a little deeper.
What's the most meaningful relationship you have? Oh, gosh. So many, but I'm going to say the relationship I have with my kids.
Oh.
So,
how many kids do you have?
5.
Oh, that's so cute. That's a tribe.
Yes.
Is that a basketball team?
Yes.
No?
5 on 5. Yes. So that was not the goal. But my husband and I are blended. So we're 2.0ers. And so he had 2, I had 2, and then we had one 21 months ago.
Oh, congrats.
So thank you. So I'm a multi-generational mom. So my son is about to graduate USF in Tampa in about a year. So he'll be 21. And then I have an almost 2-year-old. And it's a meaningful to me because they really challenge me. I learned so much about myself, good, bad, and indifferent, because it's not always pretty. But they are my most meaningful relationship for sure.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, one level more. Let's see here.
What would you title your autobiography of your life? So I would call it The Lifelong Learner. I don't ever feel like we have it figured out.
Yeah,
and
we really don't. We really don't. Even if we think we do, we don't.
Even when we feel like, you know what, I think I got this.
The next day it's like, I don't got
nope.
this.
Just kidding. We really don't have this. But I believe in being able to be outwardly, right? That's something that I learned in the later part of my life. And going through challenges is when you talk about them, right? It's healthy, but you're also lifting someone next to you that you didn't know needed to be lifted, right?
No. And isn't it amazing when sometimes you say something and then later on, months pass by, someone comes to you and says, you know, Heidi, when you spoke that time and said, and I'm just like,
it happens.
What?
Yes. And I'm like, really? Because that was like a really like not fun time, girlfriend.
Right.
But yeah, it's I feel like we're always learning, and I feel like the more open you are to realizing that you don't have it figured out,
Yeah.
I think the learning component becomes better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the more vulnerable
Yes.
you are about it too, is
And
the more people feel like they can trust you and share what they're going through.
that's right.
Right?
That's right.
I think it's just a beautiful experience.
It is. It is. I actually, I went through stage 2 breast cancer. I've been in remission for about 7 years, and I went through that experience by myself while I was going through a divorce at the same time.
Wow.
And so while it was so much easier to talk about the divorce, I couldn't find myself talking about the cancer. Thinking back, right, there were many reasons why, right? My children were younger. I was a single mom. I didn't want them to carry that. We were already, figuring out this new journey. And so I went through that, but realizing in hindsight, you know, how much, I don't know that it would have been easier, but I think the recovery would have looked different. But I didn't get to that point till a couple years ago. And so realizing that now when I share that, it's like, oh, I needed to hear that. You know what I mean?
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, my friend. That's beautiful. And so, see, sometimes we don't even know like other people's stories or their journey. I mean, people are carrying so much and have gone through so much. And yet we're here, we're laughing, we're smiling, we look beautiful.
We look great
with
in
our
this
makeup.
lighting.
This lighting is doing it all, right?
Yeah.
And we don't even know that
What?
people have gone through very triumphant things
Right.
that have made them who they are today.
Yeah,
Girlfriend, my hat's off to you for that
you
one.
too.
Wow.
For your work, for sure.
Okay, last one. I know we're almost over time.
What is something you think I could win big in life and why?
Okay, wait. So I've got to answer that for you. Girl, based on what you just shared, you're winning big. Seriously, you are winning big. I've heard you share about just you're caring for others as far as homelessness and this crisis that's happening. At the same time, you've overcome something that could have been so tragic, right? The fact that I'm here and in your presence is a gift.
Every day.
And you're here with me and we're rejoicing about, what our future holds and what we can continue to do for the community. You have a beautiful blended family. To me, you're winning big, girlfriend.
Thank you.
You are winning big. So just keep doing all of the amazing things that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's this type of fellowship that really keeps me going because trust me, there are days that don't always feel like it's a winning day. You know what I mean? But I do appreciate it. And I don't take people are like, you just go so hard. And I'm like, yeah, I live hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But.
And there's something to live for.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think circumstances like that make us aware of the time that we don't have.
Correct.
Oh.
And that we're on a clock.
Whether you like it or not.
Okay? And it's not the one that's on our wrist, and it's the one that's intended for us. But if we can make the best out of it while we're here, then why not?
Girl, you're winning big in my eyes. I will never view you the same. This is big stuff. You're resilient in every way, I must say.
Thank you.
So thank you for being on the show.
Such a pleasure. Yes. Again, I feel like this was like a blind date setup that mutual friends have been trying to get us together forever. And I'm just so thankful for the work that you're doing because it's so critical.
Yes. So last words in that camera, if you just want to share anything about how they can find out more about Chapman Partnership.
Yes, please. To find out more about the work that we're doing, please visit chapmanpartnership.org. And just go on our website, give us a call, come by for a tour, come serve meals with us. And then on April 22nd, ladies, take out your cute outfits, your shoes, and come join us at Jungle Island.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is the end of our show today. Thank you so much for joining us. Learn more about Chapman Partnership today and how you can get involved. We will see you again soon.